when making a comment or asking a question. We will now begin the meeting with a roll call of all members.
Thank you, Chair. I will go down the list of members. Please unmute and indicate if you are present. Mayor Freeman.
Present.
Thank you. Mayor Gallego.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Hartke.
Here.
Thank you. Chair Hermosillo.
Here.
Thank you. Vice Chair Osborne.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Wires. Mayor Wheatley.
I am here.
Thank you. Chair, we have a quorum.
All right, thanks so much. Okay, so we will proceed to agenda item number 2, which is our call to the audience. MAG provides the opportunity for the public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction that are not on the agenda, informational items, or items on the agenda for discussion and not for action. Members of the public are invited to submit written comments via the MAG website. Any comments received 2 hours prior to the meeting have been shared with committee members in advance of the meeting for consideration and will be included in the formal meeting minutes. Staff, have we received any online written comments for the call to the audience?
Thank you, Chair. We have not received any online written comments for call to the audience.
All right, sounds good. We will go ahead and proceed to agenda item number 3. Items 3A through 3C are for information only. Does any member of the committee have any questions or request a presentation on any of these? All right, hearing none. Next is agenda item number 4, approval of the consent agenda. All right, we'll go ahead. Items 4A through 4G are on the consent agenda. Does any member of the committee have questions or request a presentation on any of these? All right, hearing none. Prior to approval of the consent agenda, there is an opportunity for members of the public to comment on any item on the consent agenda. Staff, have we received any online written comments for the consent agenda?
Thank you, Chair. We have not received any online written comments for the consent agenda.
All right, is there a motion to approve consent items 4A through 4G?
This is Mayor Wheatley. I move for that motion.
Do we have a second?
Second, Mayor Osborne.
Okay, we have a first motion by Mayor Wheatley and a second motion by Mayor Osborne. We will have those participating in the meeting now take part in the voice vote by turning on their camera and unmuting their audio. Okay, can I have a voice vote? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those who oppose say nay. All right, members, please leave your cameras on. Staff, can you take a roll call of the members who did not turn on their camera?
Thank you, Chair. Mayor Freeman, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Chair, the motion passes.
Great, thank you so much. We will proceed to item number 5. This item is on the agenda for information and discussion and will be introduced by Amy St. Peter, Community Initiatives Director, and presented by Natalie Davenport, Senior Human Services Planner.
Mayor, thank you so much. I'll say just a couple words before I kick it to Amy. We appreciate you guys taking some time today. We didn't have enough of an agenda to warrant pulling everybody from the regional council in this month, but we did have some business we needed to conduct, which you approved on the consent agenda so we can keep things moving. We very much appreciate it. We also wanted to take just a couple minutes on 2 items. Nothing for you to act on, but it's information that's important given what's happening at the federal level and on air quality issues that we've been tracking. So we're first going to talk for a minute about some changes in federal homelessness policy that have an impact on you as individual mayors, but on us as a region and our staff who staffs the continuum of care. And then we also have some updates on air quality. So with that, on item 5, I'll turn it to Amy St. Peter.
Excellent. Thank you, Ed, and thank you very much, Chair and members of this committee. We appreciate this opportunity to share with you some information that we've been tracking. And we've been tracking this because of its direct impact on you as local and tribal governments, as well as on the work of the Maricopa Regional Continuum of Care. This affects our ability to address homelessness by each community as well as on behalf of the region. I would like to recognize the Community Initiatives team for their work in helping to track this information and to bring it to you today. Natalie has been one of the 2 leaders on that, and she'll be speaking in just a moment. We can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. But just to start off with a bit of background, we are tracking this on 2 levels. One, because of its the impact of the changes in federal funding and policy on homelessness, and that impact on you as local and tribal governments, as our member agencies. We're also tracking this because of our position as a collaborative applicant or the staffing entity for the Maricopa Regional Continuum of Care. MAG itself has been engaged in addressing human services for nearly 50 years, and we have been staffing this particular committee and board for 25 years now. So we've been doing this for a long time. Since 1999, we have drawn down more than $500 million in federal funding to support homeless assistance programs. Over the years, historically, this has been a very stable source of funding. It is not necessarily the case today, and that's why we wanted to bring this to you. Just last year was a record year with more than $52 million awarded to this region because of the application that we developed with your staff and with our partners throughout the region. This funding is at risk, and the people who are served by this funding are at risk. So to put it into perspective, nearly 3,500 people directly receive assistance because of the funding that's drawn down by these HUD funds. And this funding is at risk. Natalie will go over those changes in just a moment, but we wanted to bring this to you for your knowledge and to receive any direction or questions that you might have throughout this process. If I could please go to the next slide, and I'll turn it over to Natalie.
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. Today's presentation is going to address 3 questions: what is being proposed at the federal level, what the potential impacts of these changes are on our region, and what MAG is doing in response. Next slide, please. Over the last 8 months, we've seen priorities shift from 3 federal sources. First, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development is placing less emphasis on housing first and housing solutions, housing-led solutions in favor of enforcement strategies and treatment-centered approaches. We've also seen significant changes to funding. So on July 3rd, HUD made an unexpected announcement of an FY25 funding competition, despite previously issuing 2-year awards. This announcement came without timelines and with unclear criteria, bringing uncertainty to the largest funding source in our region for homelessness programming. In addition, recent executive orders have introduced new service restrictions, as well as provisions in federal grants, opening the door to future disruptions of funding. We've also seen congressional budget proposals include cuts to Medicaid and other key supports for people experiencing homelessness. Next slide, please. These changes introduce uncertainty to our local systems and therefore result in pressure on these systems. These changes could jeopardize funding for existing housing programs. 81% of COC funding supports permanent supportive housing for more than 2,000 vulnerable individuals. If HUD shifts away from PSH to treatment and recovery housing, many of these individuals could return directly to unsheltered homelessness. New eligibility restrictions could create additional barriers to service, meaning that more people remain homeless for longer periods of time. Prioritizing criminal justice and law enforcement responses over housing solutions could lead to extra burden on emergency response systems, as well as overall higher system costs. Our local response systems are already under strain. In the last year, Maricopa County lost over 1,000 shelter beds, and unsheltered homelessness rose by 28%. These shifts could compound existing local challenges, leading to a further increase in regional homelessness. Next slide. Our response system is more vulnerable to funding shifts than our peer regions due to our disproportionate reliance on federal dollars. Unlike many other communities, we have little to no support from non-federal sources. For example, King County Regional Homelessness Authority, which serves a smaller population, approximately 2.2 million, works with a larger budget that includes a mix of federal, state, and local sources, granting them a greater resilience to adapt to changes at the federal level. In comparison, Maricopa County, which has a population of 4.4 million, relies on a limited budget comprised almost entirely of federal dollars. As a note, this slide does not include, this slide speaks to funding that passes through the COC. It does not include contributions made by jurisdictions directly to service providers in the community. It does also not include the $16.5 million that was just approved by the state to pass through the Arizona Department of Economic Security for coordinated homelessness response.
So one thing just on this, so I want to be clear, This is not trying to capture the money that you individually in your cities are spending. It's just only capturing money that goes through the continuum of care. So many of your cities are spending money on homelessness and human services, separate from the continuum of care. This is just talking about what happens at the continuum of care level.
Next slide. MAG, as the COC staffing agency, is taking proactive steps to respond to these changes. So first, we are informing the community of our latest updates. So we monitor federal policy and funding daily. We identify which of these updates are going to be the most relevant for our community and our partners to understand. And then we send weekly policy update emails to over 2,000 recipients with this critical information. Next, we coordinate responses with partners to priority issues. This involves crafting responses to the newly announced grant application, to potential interruptions in services, and identifying critical resources that we need to use in our response strategies. In addition, our team is spending a lot of time and energy researching and engaging additional sources to craft these responses. This includes working with partner systems, such as the other two Arizona continuums of care, our state and local departments, and national organizations that offer resources for us to help interpret these changes at the federal level. A lot of this work depends very heavily on two-way communication. So we ask that jurisdictions share timely information on emerging challenges, and then let us know what your resource needs are and what regional strategies you're employing, so we can ensure that we are in alignment across the board. Finally, our team is preparing for multiple FY25 application scenarios, so we can safeguard the $52 million in COC funding we received last year. Next slide. Thank you for your time today. If there are any ways that MAG can support your jurisdiction, please reach out to our team. We would love to be in communication. We've also included a QR code to our newsletter, which contains the latest information pertaining to the COC, as well as any updates to federal homelessness and housing policy. We are committed to being a strong regional partner amidst these federal changes. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Amy and Natalie. Do any of the members have any questions or comments? All right, hearing none, we will proceed to item number 6. This item is on the agenda for information and discussion and will be presented by Matt Poppin, Director of Environmental Planning.
Thank you, Chair and members of the Executive Committee. Next slide, please. As you may remember, we've been hard at work trying to prepare our demonstration that will show what the impact on our regional ozone levels comes from international emissions. And this is in response to a section of the Clean Air Act that's made available for us to provide this demonstration to EPA. Next bullet. So our preliminary modeling results are in, and what we have discovered is that on average, across the non-attainment area, we have about 25 ozone monitors. And on average, what we're finding is the impact to our ozone levels in the year 2023 is 16 parts per billion. Significantly higher than what we were initially thinking. But it is pretty remarkable, the impact that is occurring across our monitors. Next bullet, please. So just for reference again, the EPA standard is 70 parts per billion. So with this demonstration, when we exclude the impact of man-made international emissions, we can demonstrate that our region would have attained the ozone standard back in 2023. Next bullet. We are preparing the final demonstration to be presented to the MAG policy committees next month for acceptance and submittal to the EPA administrator. On August 28th, we're going to be doing a more in-depth explanation of these modeling analyses to our Air Quality Technical Advisory Committee to go through those more in detail, but we'll be presenting the final modeling results and then the final report for acceptance and submittal to the EPA administrator next month. Next bullet. And again, if EPA approves this report, which we expect they will, the effect of that is it will keep our ozone non-attainment area as a moderate non-attainment area, avoiding future sanctions and stricter reclassifications into categories of serious or higher. So this has been a pedal to the metal type work on this to get this modeling done, and we're excited to put this together and get this up to EPA for their approval. What we've heard informally is that EPA would expect to propose approval of this demonstration in November of this year of 2025. And then hopefully they could go final with that in January. And then that would keep us at moderate moving forward. Next slide. Shifting gears a little bit, we've had an amazing year in terms of summer ozone season. We have not had an exceedance since June 18th, which is now a record, since this EPA came out with their new standard in 2015. What this graphic is showing is this is just isolated to the month of July, and you can see the average ozone concentrations across our monitors in the green line. So you can see last year, our average July concentration was 64 parts per billion. This year in 2025, it's 52 parts per billion. And then the bar graphs below show us the number of days that we exceeded the ozone standard, which again is 70. And we had 0 exceedances in 2025, which again is a record. That's never happened before. What we're hearing, the main culprit of this has been our unique weather system that has allowed for greater ventilation, greater horizontal and vertical movement of air, which has prohibited the ozone from being able to sort of accumulate day over day. It just kind of gets refreshed every day, and that has really prevented exceedances. We still have no exceedances going now into August. There are some predicted later this week, but we'll see if that happens or not. But this is a great result. It's great for public health, but it is somewhat surprising. Next slide. Go ahead and pull up the whole slide. Thank you. As part of that, as if you remember, one of the actions that the regional council contributed to is the ground level ozone research project. The regional council authorized $750,000 for this study, along with ADEQ in Maricopa County and some private industries, to try and understand what is happening, what is causing ozone exceedances in our region. One of the things that has been exciting, I did mention that last exceedance was on June 18th, and one specialized piece of equipment, it's called ozone LIDAR. It's basically radar that measures ozone from the ground level up to the vertical level, captured something called an ozone intrusion event. And you can kind of see that depicted on this graphic. High levels of ozone are in the red and black colors, and low levels of ozone are the blue colors. Ground level is at the bottom. So you can see that what happened is a weather system came through and pushed some of that high level ozone down to the surface over time, causing the exceedance on June 18th.
So you're looking right there in the middle map between the Wednesday and Thursday.
Exactly.
Where there's the red and the green right down there at the bottom.
Exactly. So that
you're describing. Okay.
Yeah. So that ozone was able to be pushed down from the upper levels, and it got low enough where the mixing height captured it and was able, and it affected ground level ozone. This was great information for us because this told us on this day, the ozone exceedance was not due to local emissions, but it was due to this weather event. Without this piece of equipment, we probably would not have captured this event. We might have thought it would have occurred, but we wouldn't have the evidence to show that it did occur. So this is one of the benefits that this study is providing. As I mentioned, kind of ironically, because we're not having ozone exceedances, we're not able to capture more information this year, but we're still getting good information on what's happening with our ozone. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions or comments the committee might have.
All right, thank you so much, Matt. Do any of the members have questions or comments?
Yeah, Chair, Eric Osborne, I do.
Yes, Mayor Orr.
So I guess the standard Matt, you remind me what the standard is that we're being held to. What is considered a non-exceedance?
Yes, Chair and Mayor Osborne. So the standard is 70 parts per billion over an 8-hour average. So when we get higher than that, that's called an exceedance day. And it's a little bit complicated. You're allowed basically 4 of those a year. Your 4th highest exceedance day is the value that's used against you, and that's averaged over a 3-year period. So, like, for example, if our 4th highest exceedance day was 73, that's what it'd be for 2025, and you take a 3-year average of that, 25, 24, 23, that's how you're compared against the standard. But to simplify it, it's that 70 parts per billion is the standard on
And
a
then
daily basis.
what are we typically I think I understand that we're producing 16 parts per billion. I know I'm going to get the nomenclature wrong here, but it is if we can prove that without well, we're only at 16, the standard is 70. I know most of that other is either naturally occurring or is something in from outside of the state. Is there ever an opportunity? I think I already know the answer to this asking it, but is there ever an opportunity we say, look, you can't hold us responsible really for any of that transient ozone that's coming in, and so we go from that moderate non-attainment to whatever the next level down is?
Yeah, Mayor Osborne, thank you for that question. So currently, the Clean Air Act does not have that mechanism in it. So the only relief that Section 179B has currently is it keeps you at our current status. It does not allow you to go backwards down the ladder. I know that's something lawmakers are probably considering or thinking about, but currently we're just going to stay at moderate for the time being until our air actually gets clean enough to consider what's known as a redesignation request, and that is asking to be moving from a non-attainment area to an attainment area. But for now, we're proving that the international impact was 16 parts per billion. If you remove that, we meet the standard, and the Clean Air Act just allows us to stay at moderate for now.
And Mayor, just want to clarify, I think if I understood how you said it, just to clarify it, it's not that we're at 16, it's that what they've identified is that 16 are coming from somewhere else. So let's say, for example, we're typically, our exceedance the years of, we've been about 78. So if we're at 78 and the standard is 70, but we know that 16 of the 78 are coming from international, that means we're really at 62, 78 minus 16 that we have to deal with. And that's where we're getting below the 70. That makes sense?
Yeah, that does. Yeah, I had it backwards in what I was saying. Okay, that's helpful. And it's really helpful to have that new equipment that shows that that ozone exists at a higher altitude in the environment. And there's some of these weather patterns that force that down. I'm assuming that ozone is at that higher altitude across the entire United States, and maybe they don't have those weather patterns that push that down. How do we compare to other areas in looking at it with that type of equipment?
Yeah, that's correct, Mayor Osborne. That's that good ozone you hear about, the ozone that protects you from the ozone layer that we're trying to keep up there. Once it stays up high, that's good. But when these weather systems pass through, it can be pushed down to the ground level. We tend to get more of those out here in the Intermountain West just because we're a little bit higher altitude, especially states like Colorado and Utah. That's where these are expected to occur. What I think is somewhat surprising is it looks like it's occurring at more lower altitudes, like in Phoenix. So that's somewhat of a surprising discovery that this is occurring more often than I think people thought. But yeah, this is something that can occur across the entire U.S. if the weather system is there that would allow the conditions to push that ozone down to the ground level monitor.
Okay. With all that, just thrilled that we are going through this process and trying to collect data that we can make decisions on moving forward, and that the EPA can make decisions on moving forward that's actually based on some equipment and science and real life findings that I think are going to be really helpful for us moving forward as a region. So thank you, Mag and Matt, you for everything that you guys are doing in vetting this.
All right, thanks so much. Thank you so much for those questions and that commentary, Mayor Osborne. Are there any comments or questions from the remaining committee?
Yes,
Okay, Mayor Gallego.
Mayor Gallego. Wonderful. Matt, could you talk about monsoon events and how they might sometimes lead to ozone problems?
Yeah, Mayor Gallego, it's a very similar situation where if that air gets disturbed enough, it can also bring down ozone from the upper levels of the atmosphere to mix in as well. So monsoons can trigger that downward mixing of ozone. Sometimes monsoons can be helpful if it blows out the ozone, right? If it's starting to build up at ground level, sometimes those winds can come in and help it disperse. So it's kind of a mixed bag, but it certainly can pull in ozone. We know that lightning generates ozone as well. So when there's a lot of lightning associated with a monsoon storm, that generates additional nitrous oxide emissions in the atmosphere, which can also contribute to ozone formation.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Mayor Gallego. Any other comments or questions from the committee? All right, hearing none, thank you again, Matt, for all of that information. We'll go ahead and move forward to item number 7. This item is on the agenda for information. Ed Zuercher will present the updates.
Thank you, Mayor Hermosillo. Actually, for items 7 and 8, we don't have anything today. You guys are going to get enough legislative updates the rest of this week with the League of Cities and Towns. So we are able to go straight to item 9.
Awesome, thanks so much. All right, item number 9 is request for future agenda items. Are there any requests from the membership for an item on a future agenda? All right, hearing none, the next agenda item is comments from the committee. Are there any comments or announcements from the membership?
Excellent job, Chair Hermosillo.
Thanks so much, Mayor Arquette. Really appreciate it. All right, hearing none, we'll move forward with an adjournment. I just want to make sure, Ed, do we need a motion for this adjournment?
No, you're fine just adjourning the meeting, Mayor.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank everyone for being so great for my first meeting as chair of the executive committee, and I look forward to serving alongside you for the rest of the year and for as long as I am in office. So thanks so much. All right, I'll see you guys at the conference this week, and then our next meeting of the Regional Council Executive Committee will be on Monday, September 15th, 2025 at 12 p.m. And with no further business, today's meeting is adjourned. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good job, Mayor.